comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. I know where it came from. I don't know if you'd say China's to blame. Certainly we didn't get an early run on it. It would have been helpful if we knew about it earlier.
You know, I wrote about 3 weeks ago that once Donald Trump said that there might be something to this idea, that the coronavirus, COVID-19, came from that lab in Wuhan, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, that there were going to be an awful lot of people that simply said, this can't be true, this is a conspiracy theory. Their basic brain function equates to orange man bad and can't be true. Let me point to a few things that have come out since then. The Daily Telegraph in Australia reporting on a Five Eyes dossier. Now, Five Eyes, for those that don't know, is the intelligence community made up of the intelligence agencies of Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Australia. We coordinate our intelligence activities together. And the Daily Telegraph out of Australia has a 15-page document that points towards that specific lab as being the source. They're not saying it was man-made. They're not saying it was a bioweapon. They're saying that it could have leaked out. Secretary of State to Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, went on ABC's This Week and said there is evidence to that effect.
I can tell you that there is a significant amount of evidence that this came from that laboratory in Wuhan.
So all of this put together, you start to say, well, is there anything to it? The first people that raised this issue, as I have written about in the past, were a pair of Chinese scientists, one from the Southern Chinese Institute of Technology, the other from the Wuhan University, saying, you know what, we believe this virus came from the lab in Wuhan. Where? What do? They study coronaviruses. The woman who heads up that department is known as Batwoman. She goes around China collecting bats out of caves to study the viruses that they spread, to try and learn how they operate. So is it possible that the virus somehow escaped, that someone got infected, went home, spread it to their family, and on it went? Well, she says no, that the genetic code doesn't match. But we've seen that Chinese officials have not been very forthcoming on anything related to COVID-19. So why would we believe them without investigating on this front? Then several readers sent me this over the weekend, audio of Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Medical Officer of Health. She was then at a different position within Canada's Public Health Agency back in 2009 when she was speaking before the Health Committee and was asked about the issue of terrorism happening or weapons being used, things coming out of labs. They were studying a bill about increasing the security at labs. Here's what she told them about SARS.
In China, in Beijing, the SARS virus did come from a laboratory, infected laboratory workers, and the laboratory workers went and infected their family members.
So if SARS can escape from a lab in China because someone got infected, went home, infected their family, and it spread from there, why not COVID-19? I'm not saying it absolutely happened, but I am saying it needs to be explored, and we can't simply dismiss it because Donald Trump said something about it once, and you don't happen to like Donald Trump. Regardless of whether this came from a wet market or from the lab or somewhere else, we need to know the answers. By the way, Justin Trudeau did not dismiss this report. When asked about it, just said we can't come to firm conclusions. His ministers and top officials did not dismiss it, and in fact were not even as emphatic as he was. So there may be something to this, but regardless of whether it was the wet market or it was this lab or some other source, we will eventually need to know this information to help prepare for the next pandemic and to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again.